Alright, welcome back to another quick pitch baseball tutorial. My name is Brian Hafferkamp and I'm the designer of Quick Pitch Baseball. I've been very excited about the adoption of Pitch Baseball so far by the gaming community, and I've been asked to do a little bit more of a slow motion kind of primer. A little, how does the game work? So some people are having maybe a hard time following everything from the demo games that I've done, and I haven't done a proper primer on gameplay necessarily. I've just done, here's what's on the cards and that kind of thing. So let's just walk through a couple of at-bats here. We have our pitcher in Mike Scott, and we have our batter in Wade Boggs. And may have to manipulate some scenarios here to make things happen, but let's go all through, at least through the different types of plays in the at-bat. So first roll here, make sure I get these on camera. And I like to, first you start with three D10 dice, and they should be different colors, and this represents the hundreds place, the tens place, and the ones place. So this game is built on a 1 to 1000 game engine, I guess, or a range of 1 to 1000. So we have 1000 possible rolls on every roll. Most of the time we don't even get close to doing that. The ranges are much more broad than that, but we do have all of those to play with. So if you ever want to homebrew something, you have 1000 results. And then across how many categories? So 2, 4, 6, 8 categories times 1000 is 8000 possibilities just off of the at-bat roll. So you have a lot of different possibilities in this game, and I'm hoping to do some things to really leverage that in the future and make for a very interesting sort of game engine, very detailed and interesting game engine. So for now, the first roll comes off of the pitcher card, always. So no first roll comes off the batter card. They always come off the pitcher card. In our roll here, I go red, black, white. That's usually how I read the dice that I use. But again, you can use any color dice that you want to. If you only have one D10, you can roll it once for the first number, second number, third number, and just roll it 3 times and come up with a number. You can use a digital dice roller, however you want to do it. So 647, we're going to look through our ranges. So 1 to 454 for Mike Scott, and this is different for every pitcher. So this is the beauty of this game, is every pitcher is going to be just a little bit different. So if you look at Roger Clemens, he's 1 to 475 is an out. 476 to 714, 455 to 741. So you can see that Mike Scott's strikeout numbers are actually higher. His percentage of strikeouts based on just these results, not based off of his strike. It's not his strikeout percentage, although it's probably pretty close, but it's not his strikeout percentage because it's only what is that? 15, 14, about 14%. And so here we have almost 30, so sorry, 25%, 24%. And up here we have almost 25%. So that's not their, I don't believe that's their actual strikeout percentage numbers. It's only based off of the adding all of these possibilities together, and then what percentage of all these types of outcomes, what percentage is a strikeout, what percentage is an out, what percentage is a walk. So I've added up all of these, the players' strikeouts, walks, hits, hit by pitch, wild pitch, balk, errors, or home runs. I've added all those together and then created the percentages based on that, and the outs as well. So outs is sort of what's left over out of 1000. So that's how I formulated that. And so this is really just how many strikeouts in relation to all of these outcomes. So just to let you behind the scenes a little bit in the card making process. So I have a 647, and it's more than 454, so it won't be an out. It's actually falling in this range between 455 and 741. So that's where 647 falls. And so in this at bat, it's going to be a strikeout. Now, if you want, you can just totally end the at bat, write your K down, and move on with the rest to the next at bat. If you want to, we also have a swinging strikeout number for all the batters. So if you want to roll to see if it was a swinging or a called strikeout, then you would roll against this number here. So 1 to 227, and Wade Boggs swings and strikes out. So this is a 253, and a 253 is outside this number, greater than this number. So that would be a called strike 3. So a swinging strikeout would be 1 to 227. Anything else would be a called strike 3. So in that at bat, Mike Scott would strike Wade Boggs out swinging. So that's how you would resolve a strikeout. Okay, that's another strikeout. Don't want to just keep doing strikeouts over and over. Okay, here's one. So a 0.43. So a 0.43 falls inside of our out range, 1 to 454, because this just is read like a 43, right? So less than 100, kind of 43. On my dice, 0 is a 10, but when it's not 000, which would be 1,000, then it just I just count it as a 0, because I need a 0 number in there somewhere. If you had a 10 written on the dice, and this came up as a 10, I would still count it as a 0. Okay, so you need numbers 1 to 1,000. So your 10s can't just be 10, 10, 3. Right? It has to be 0, 0, 3. Okay, so just using a little common sense there in the way that we deal with that. So this is going to be an out. Now, when there's an out, we're always moving from the pitcher card first to the batter card. So when there's an out, you could just record it as an out and move on with life and just say, okay, that was an out. I don't need to know if it was a fly ball, grounder. I don't need to know who caught the ball and how he got out or anything like that. You could just mark it down as an out and move on. For getting more detail, and that's really what this game is about, is if you want to go more detailed into the game, make another roll. You want to go a little bit more detailed, make another roll. So we're going to go into the outs chart on the batter card. And again, the out charts are all different. So 1 to 264 is a fly ball out for Marty Barrett. 1 to 237 is a fly ball out for Wade Boggs. 238 to 799 or 791 is a grounder. 265 to 785. So they're very similar hitters, but they're not exactly the same. In fact, here's one. Here's Bill Doran. Bill Doran is a 1 to 396 is a fly ball. So 1 to 237, 1 to 396, 238 to 791, 397 to 792. So more of a chance for a fly ball here with Bill Doran than there is with Wade Boggs. And consequently about the same opportunity for a line drive. Now, how did I come to these numbers? There's a little technique I was doing with On Base Advanced a long time ago where I was trying to create historical cards. And I succeeded, and I never finished that project, but I started working on Hall of Fame players, a Hall of Fame set for On Base Advanced. Now, if you never played On Base Advanced, there's potential for 7 rolls. There's a lot of parts of this game that are actually in it. So when I show you the infield and the outfield charts, it's very similar to the matrices that I use in On Base Advanced. And the way I come up with these numbers for outs and strikeouts, because these numbers are based off of I don't know if it's official StatCast, but it's based off of stats that don't exist for historical players. They don't go back farther than 2002 or 1998 or something like that. So they don't go back very far. And some of these players actually played into, they started in 1986 and they played into. So Roger Clemens, he has some numbers, but if you follow some of these guys toward the end of their careers, they actually have some of these StatCast numbers. And if that happened and they had 3 or 4 years, I would use theirs. I would use their numbers. But for guys like who didn't play into sort of that newer StatCast era, what I was doing is I was finding an equivalent player based off of their similarity scores at baseballreference.com. So you go to any player page, well, not any of them, but most of them. And if they played enough games, you can scroll down past all their statistics, down past their, uh, it's almost all the way to the bottom of the player page. And you'll see a part that talks about their similarity scores. Now, what they've done is they've gone and compared these players across all of baseball history based off of their age, their statistics, sort of their profile as a player, and their position. So they're sort of lining them up with similar positions. So that's what I did. I found a similarity score with a player who was playing now, or a player who did play during sort of the post 2002, and I went to that player and I sort of took his. So it's a little bit of a Jurassic Park kind of move that I did, where I took in Jurassic Park, if you remember, they took the DNA from some preserved DNA inside of little pieces of amber that had been preserved for gazillions of years that had dinosaur DNA in it. And then they took a mosquito, and then they took an animal from today, and then they put them together. And by doing that, they completed the helix for the DNA, and then they were able to grow a dinosaur. That was the science behind Jurassic Park. Don't know if you ever read the book or not, but it goes way into it. And so I kind of did the same thing where I took this old player, A, and then I had a similar player from the present, and I combined their. So these all have to do with his hit percentages. So out of all of his hits, 72.4% of them went for singles, and another 20%, almost 20%, went for doubles, etc., etc. So to where you get down to it's about 4.5% or almost 5% of his hits were home runs. So that actually works because I'm just using sort of calculated stats or stats that are tallied during the game. That goes all the way back through history. There's no problem with that. There's no problem with the base running. That's mostly just stolen base attempts or stolen base opportunities divided by, sorry, stolen base attempts divided by stolen base opportunities. So I got a little calculation that I do for that to figure out stolen base opportunities. It's not perfect, but it's good enough. And it gives you sort of a loose approximation of what percentage or how many times when in a stolen base opportunity that the player actually took off. So for Wade Boggs, it's 1.2% of the time he took off in those opportunities. And the success rating just has to do with a sabermetric rating from Bill James called a speed rating. I've used it in other games before. In fact, I use it in on-base baseball. And it's the same speed rating, just converted into a 1 to 2000. So basically, you just take a 1 point or a 2.4, which is his speed rating, 2.4, and then you multiply it by 100, so, or divide it by 100. So then you get 0.240. And so I'm just converting that into a scale of 1 to 1000, but you can easily see that his speed rating is a 2.4. For Bill Dorn, his speed rating is a 1 to 600. So his success rating is a 1 to 600, and his speed is a 6.0. So that's how you basically uh, divide that by 100, and then for the other way, we're multiplying by 100 to get this nice 1 to 1000 number. The catch rating is just the person's fielding percentage converted again to multiply by 1,000. So it's 1 to 953 is a 953 fielding percentage, and then the range is another Bill James creation, sort of an old Bill James creation, where he tried to calculate the range of a fielder based on several different factors, usually like how many putouts that they made and some other things. Um, So players who are going to play sort of premium positions or positions to get a lot more balls, including first base, it sort of skews really badly toward first basemen and catchers. Although you don't see those guys make a lot of errors, so it doesn't feel like it's totally out of whack. And you can see that third base, his range isn't real great. So 27% of the time that you do a range play, he's going to make that play. That leaves 73% of the time he doesn't make the play. So it skews more toward middle infielders, catchers, first baseman, and then most of the other players have a pretty limited range, which can make for some exciting plays in the game. So the range plays don't come up very much. I made sure that they weren't all the time. So it's kind of a special type of deal. Anyway, so that is a more in-depth explanation about this card. So here we have an out, and then we want to find out more detail. Is it fly out, ground out, or line out? And when we roll, we see that we have an 806. Sorry, that moved. Doesn't matter really. 806, 802. So 806 falls within the line out range of 792 to 1000. And really, this first number is going to key you in on where you need to look. So after a while, you sort of get used to where you're looking. And you get used to the fact that most players are going to be somewhere in the 200 to 400 range with fly balls, and then somewhere here in the 750 to 1000 for line drives. Sometimes a little bit, sometimes around 700 for line drives. And so we're going to look at the line drive. And what we need to do on line drives and flyouts is we need to use our outfield place chart. Let's see, I'll have to zoom this out a little bit. So this is our outfield place chart. It's a matrix, 10 by 10 matrix. So there are 100 possibilities on here. And we're going to only use 2 of our dice to do this outfield place chart. And you only need to use 2. I usually wind up rolling all 3, but you don't need the third die for anything unless you homebrew something that you want to use that third die for. So what we're going to do is we're going to roll our dice. And again, in this instance, because this is a single and it's not part of a 3-digit number, it's only itself. It's a 1 to 10. So in this case, the 0 is going to equal 10 for me because I need a 1 to 10 number. And what I do is I take this dice, it's a 10, and I do it I find my place along the y-axis, so this corner. This is a 3, and so I find my place along the x-axis, so along the y first, along the x second, and where those two things meet is the square that I'm looking at. So it would be that square right there. And it says minus 200. And it's also in this section here. You can see left field, center field, right field. So that ball is hit to the right fielder. It's a line drive to the right fielder. And then we need to roll and see, does the right fielder make the play on the ball? So we'll remember that square because we might need it if there are runners on base. But we have a 366. That was a 3. And then let's say Marty Barrett is our right fielder. Well, we're going to look. We have a 366, and we need to look at the catch and see, is it within the catch value range? So his catch value range is a 1 to 982. So anything between 1 and 982 is a catch. It's an out. So this is a 366. So that would be a liner to right, caught by the outfielder. So that's how that works. If there were runners on base, let's say there's a runner on first base and only 1 out. So Barrett makes the catch in right. That's out number 2. And then we have this minus 200 here. And if we look at our player card, let's say Bill Dorn is on first base. His success rating, his speed rating basically is a 1 to 600. And what we can do is if we want to try to move Bill Dorn up, he's at first base. We want to see if he can make it to second base. What we would do is we would drop this down minus 200 to 1 to 400. So that would be his success chance, 1 to 400. So he goes from a 60% chance of making it to a 40. Now, if he had landed, let's say here on this 200, it would be plus 200. So it would go to 1 to 800. So he would go from a 60% chance to an 80% chance of making it. But in this instance, we take off 200. He's down to 400, and we're going to try to get him to second base. Okay, and so our roll is a 0.66. And he is going to move on that line drive. He's going to move up to second base. So you can do that with your lead runner. You can homebrew some different things. Like if you want to do the lead runner or a trailing runner, you can just decide which one is going to go up and that kind of thing. But for now, the basics, the lead runner, right? Somebody hits a base hit. You want to know, can they make it to third base, et cetera, et cetera. So that is how outfield plays work. So in that play, there was a line drive, hit to the right fielder. Right fielder caught the ball for the out. The play here, because we had a fast runner, even though we took 200 off, he still made it into second base. If his number was a 200, 1 to 200, and you take 200 off, he's obviously not going to go because he can't make it. So that is how to do flyouts. And let's say instead it was a ground out. Instead of a flyout, it was a ground out. And so at this point here, we have a ground out. Let's say this is a 4. Let's say it's 466. 466 is inside of our ground out range. So we're going to pull out our infield plays chart. And it looks like this. Very colorful. And each color represents a different player or a different position on the field. So blue is first base, second base, shortstop, third base, catcher, and pitcher. So we have sort of, if you think about it as home plate and kind of moving out this way towards center field, you see there's the catcher, the pitcher's mound, second base would be somewhere in here, and then you have sort of the shape of the infield like this, right? Going around, you have first base over here, third base over here. On this chart, again, we roll our 2d10 dice, and I like to use the red and the black just because it's easy to see the colors. And these represent my number 1 and number 2 dice all the time. You can use whatever colors you want, whatever combo you want. Just make sure that 1 is first and 1 is second. So the first one is going to be a 5, again, along the y-axis. And the second is 4, again, along the x-axis. And then we come down. Where do those two meet? They meet right here in this black square, just past the pitcher's mound on the right field side. So that ball goes to a black, and the black is second base. And that would be a fielder's choice. So in the dark colors, that's going to be a fielder's choice. In the light colors, that's going to be, it says here, light color blocks are a double play chance. So because our ball goes here, this is the second baseman coming in hard. He's going to have to flip the ball over to first. Let's see if he makes the play. It's an 8-12. And I have 2 first basemen here. Let's Marty Barrett. So 1 to 982, and Barrett makes the play cleanly, throws to first, and gets the out. So an 8-12 is inside that range. Therefore, he makes the play at second base and gets the out at first. Now, if there were runners on base, those runners would advance because this is just a fielder's choice to first. The only play is to first base. If there's a runner at first base, let's say Bill Doran is at first base, and all of a sudden we hit a ball here to 10-6, and that's where we're going. Now, because this is a light color block here, and here, and here, and here, and even a light color blocks here, we have a chance to turn 2. Now, you can turn 2 in a number of different ways. I personally like to assume the out at second base. So runners at first base, Bill Doran's at first, and I hit into one of these double play blocks. I assume the out at second base. I don't even try to make that throw, or I don't do anything about it. I just say fielder's choice, he's out at second base. And then let's say Billy Hatcher is running. He's our batter down here, and he's going to first base. So Doran is going to second. Billy Hatcher is going to first. And we've completed this. So Doran is out at second. And then now to see if the double play is completed, we need to roll against Billy Hatcher's success rating. So we use the speed success rating in multiple different ways across the game. So you just kind of get used to anytime there's a base running play and you want to know, was he safe or out, or did he make it or not, then you want to look at the success rating. The green light is only for steals. So we want to see if the double play was made. This is a 4 to 6. That's going to be so to the shortstop, 4 to 6. That's out number 1. And then to see if we completed it, we roll against Billy Hatcher's success rating. And our roll is a 685. And a 685 is inside of 1 to 740. So that means that Billy Hatcher would be safe at first. If this had been instead, let's say 885, then that would be outside of his success rating of 1 to 740, and he would be out. That would be a 463 double play. So in that way, it's more difficult to double up a fast runner, which is common in baseball, right? If you're fast, it's going to be harder to double you up. If you're slow, it's going to be a lot easier to double you up. So that's how double plays work. And then finally on here, if we were to hit it here to, let's say, the R first base, so this is a 10-4. Now this is going to be a range check. So anytime you see an R, and there's several of them, each position has at least ones, and these positions here have 2. The R stands for a range check, and the way that we do that is we check the range. So you can see for Bill Doran, it's 1 to 427. So if the ball is hit here, then we have to do a range check on Bill Doran. The roll is a 342. That was our roll. 342 is less than 427. Or it's 427 or less. And so that means that he makes the play. He ranges over, he makes the play, and because it's in a dark square, his only play is to first. If there were a runner at first base, that runner would move. If there were less than 2 outs, the runner would move up. The only play is to first base. And now you would have a runner at second base. Let's say there was 1 out when the ball was hit. You make the out for out number 2. The base runner moves up to second base, and now he's standing at second base with 2 outs. But if he doesn't make that play, if instead it was 542, which is outside of his range, that ball would go through for a single. So it's sort of that seeing eye single that goes in between the second baseman and the first baseman and makes its way into right field. And it's just sort of that 12 hop bouncer that gets through, a little bleeder that gets through. And a player with good range is going to make it. A player with terrible range has less of a chance of making that play, just like in real life. So I've tried to really create sort of a kinetic sense of fielding, right? It's kind of dynamic and kinetic. It's not just this, that kind of thing that you sometimes get with ball games. But it really is going to be different in every game. Fielding is going to be very different in every game just because of all the possibilities that it could be. If you hit the ball down the line and the third baseman can't get to it or the first baseman can't get to it because of his range, it's going to be more difficult with a first baseman, although I've had it before. Most first basemen are going to, who do I have? Bill Buckner, his range is a 924, so he has a very limited possibility for that to get by him, but it does occasionally happen. I mean, he still has, 76 opportunities for it to get by him. So it is possible. That would only be a 7.6% chance that he doesn't make the play, but it is still a chance, right? And so if it gets by him, that's going to be a double in that square. If it gets by him in this square, it's a single. Same thing down the third base line. Third basemen generally have a lower threshold. They have a smaller range. This is Denny Walling. His range is 1 to 292 because he has made fewer putouts, right? So that range is affected by that. If someone could think of a better number to use for range, I would be happy to do it. Some number that actually accounts for range, but this is something that Bill James did in the 80s, I believe. He created the range. And I know that there are other newer stats, but range actually goes back in history. I don't have to do any like calculations or any special anything. It actually goes back really far into history, which is nice because he's just using counting stats to come up with that. I think that's all there is with the infield plays. So we've covered the outs. We've covered the, and this video is getting long, but we covered the outs. We covered the strikeouts. If the play is a walk, nothing special, just take a walk. If the play is a hit, then we come over to the hits chart on the batter card. We roll for the hit. This is a 180. 180 falls between 1 and 724. So that's going to be a single for Wade Boggs on that hit. Again, if it was 8, let's say it was 880, that would fall into his double range. And if it was 980, then that would fall into his home run range, and that would be a home run on that hit. So you don't actually know what type of hit it is until you roll off of the batter card. Again, those are very different. Let's say Glenn Davis's card is, so a 1 to 724 is a single. For Davis, a 1 to 565 is a single, but 566 to 775 is a double, which is maybe not percentage-wise different, but he has a 795 to 1,000 is a home run, and 961 to 1,000 is a home run for Boggs. Boggs hit 8. Glenn Davis hit 31 in 1986. So you can see that when he gets a hit, the percentage of hits go for home runs at a higher rate for Glenn Davis. So that's, every player is totally different, and that's based off of their actual statistics. So that's not something I had to go and find a duplicate player for. These are actual hitting stats here. The next one is a hit by pitch. Obviously, you get hit by pitch, you go down to first base. The next one is a wild pitch. If there's a wild pitch with no runners on base, you just simply re-roll. Consider that a ball, and then you re-roll. If there's a wild pitch with players on base, everybody moves up one base, right? And then the batter is still hitting, so he has to hit just like that. BLK is a balk, and if there's a balk, you treat it like a wild pitch. Everybody moves up one base. If there's a wild pitch, if there's a runner at third base, he scores. And I don't think anybody gets an RBI on that. But the run scores from third, I had to double check on, how you score that. And then the player stands at the plate still, and he's still in the at bat. He doesn't go to first base on a balk. If there's no one on base and there's a balk, obviously you can't balk with no one on base. So you just simply re-roll again. And then the last one is the home run. So you can hit a home run as a batter off of the hits chart, or you can hit a home run off the pitcher, as we say, where maybe the pitcher leaves one out over the plate as a meatball and it gets hit out by the batter. This is based off of how many home runs against, in relation to all of these numbers, how many home runs. So he gave up 17, which is probably average-ish, maybe a little bit below average. So only a 986 to 1,000 will be a home run. That's pretty good from what I've seen. Who do we have? Nolan Ryan, about the same thing. He didn't give up as many, but he also didn't have some of the other innings pitched. Let's see. Bob Nepper gives up 19 home runs, 17 and 19. So 983 to 1,000, 986 to 1,000. You can just tell that some pitchers give up more home runs than others. Here's a good one. Jim DeShays, the lefty. He gave up 16 home runs in 144 innings. He gives up 17 in 275 innings. And it's a little bit easier to hit a home run off of Jim DeShays than it is Mike Scott. So it's different with every single pitcher, literally every relief pitcher, every starter, these numbers are different. So you're going to get a different game every single time that you play, which is one of the really cool parts of it. You're not going to run into, well, I've been kind of getting bored because I'm seeing the same things over and over again. But if there's a home run here, then you can feel free to just give him a home run. Let's say you run into a guy like Marty Barrett, who hasn't hit a lot of home runs over the course of the season and you can set a threshold, if it's guys with less than 10 home runs or less than 5 home runs, or only guys who haven't hit a home run, however you want to do it. If you roll up on the home run and you don't feel comfortable giving a guy who didn't hit a home run off of the pitcher card, I totally understand. I get it. And what you can do is you can just treat that as a hit, and then you can roll for a hit. Now, if he has a home run number and you wind up rolling a 980 and he hits it, so off of 2 rolls, he still hits the home run, chalk it up to he hit 4. He can hit home runs. So he's had to kind of pass through 2 gates, though, to get to that home run. So that's one way to do it. You can also take weak hitters like this and you can subtract 100 so that instead of a 980, it's the roll turns out to be an 880. Our original roll was 980. So 880 puts you down into the hit. Actually, it puts you down into the hit range. So then now he would have to hit the ball. So you can do it either way. Subtracting by 100 is often going to put you down into the hit range. It probably is going to come out to about the same thing, whether you do it one way or the other. And I typically do that with pitchers as well. So I do have pitcher batting cards in here. So if you want to play in the National League, we have a pitcher batting card. It's totally generic to the entire league. So this is sort of league averages here. And this was taken from league averages of hits and home runs, etc. So that's why there is an actual home run opportunity there. This is 0 point something something something, so it just kind of rounds to 0. But there have been some home runs by hitters, throughout the major leagues in that year. And these here, how did I do that? I can't remember exactly how I got these numbers, maybe just by looking at a very weak hitter. I'm not sure. And then these are actual stolen base numbers as well for an aggregate of all the pitchers who got at bats in 1986. So this is an aggregate card of all pitchers. I've been using it for the playoffs and it's been great. So essentially, most of the time these guys are going to be bunting anyway, so it's not a huge deal. But again, if a pitcher's up and you want to give him a hit here and make him hit his way to something, then you can do that. There's not much opportunity for a triple, a little bit for a double, and mostly singles are what they're going to hit. And then if you want to subtract 100, which I have done as well, because what that'll do is if you get 100 down in here, if you got an 810 and you subtract 100, now you're down to 710, and that's a walk instead of a potential hit. If you want to do that, that's typically how I've been playing it, where I subtract 100 on the initial roll off the pitcher card for pitchers. So just a little, it's kind of inside tips about how to play everything. And in another video, I will talk through different scenarios and just run through some actual scenarios, how to use the hit and run chart, how to use a little bit more in depth about how to use some of the different charts in the game. So that you'll have a better idea of how to do that. But hopefully this sort of straightens everything out for you. These are the basics of the game. You have your cards, you have your dice, and then you have your 2 infield and outfield plays charts. And really, you're all set to go. You're ready to play a game. Just put it on a score sheet and go. And all of the plays that you need basically are going to be there. If you want to bunt, there are some extra charts that are at the end of the game guide. So if you scroll all the way down to the end of the game guide PDF, you'll see some extra charts at the end that you can print off. I tried to separate them so that you don't have to print them all together, which you could do if you wanted to. But I try to separate them out by page. That way, if you only want to use the bunting chart, you can just print the page with the bunting chart. If you only want to do the infield end chart, then you can print those off separately. So feel free to print whichever ones you want. And those charts, I printed them all off separately. So this is kind of what it looks like if you print them all separately. There's another one there, and this is part of the Infield in chart. And there's bunting plays and, just several different sort of scenarios, what to do on a hit and run when there's a fly ball or a line drive with a slow player. So he's taking off. There's a line drive, and then he has to try to get back to first base. So you roll for the double play there. And then what to do in each different scenario. And those are based off of these outcomes here. So whatever the outcome is, how do you deal with that particular play? So feel free to print these out. And you'll have those just to be able to use for any sort of special situations that are very common in baseball. Like I said, I'm working on a secondary sort of way to play that's totally off the charts. And that mixes gameplay here with complete chart-based baseball, if that's really the way that you want to play. But it'd be super detailed because, again, I have 1,000 plays that I can potentially put on there. So there's lots of different variation that you could add into that, but it would be definitely a different style of play and would not be coming only off the cards. In this way, footprint is small, game plays quickly, and you don't have to worry about so many charts and things like that. All right. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down in the comment section below. I'd love to hear them. I'd love to hear your impressions of the game. If you've taken the opportunity to download it and print it and cut the cards and maybe play a game or two. If you think about it, if you downloaded it, you'll get a follow-up that says, hey, do you want to rate the game and leave a review? If you're ready to leave a review and rate the game, I encourage you to do that. It helps other people when they get to the website and they're trying to make a decision about the game to see actual people, gamers who have downloaded and played it, what their thoughts are, what their impressions are of the game. So leave those, and I don't typically leave off bad reviews. So if you want to leave a bad review, you can, but typically I don't care. I'll publish those as well. Everybody needs to be able to see the truth about the game, so I'm not afraid of that necessarily. If you do want to leave a bad review, I encourage you to send something to me as a follow-up and just say, hey, this was not good, or you need to improve here, or here's how you can make the game better. You can leave that on this channel in the comment section. Not afraid of those either. What I want to do is make the best game possible. And one of the ways that would do that is in partnership with the people playing the game. You've played a million games. You've had the opportunity to play this one. Is there a way that we can make it better while still staying true to this game itself? All right. If you haven't click subscribe. And when you click the little bell icon, you'll be notified of any new videos that I post, which I'll be posting. More new videos. The World Series is going to continue on. We're on to Game 3 now. And there'll be more tutorial tip type videos like this as well, especially as people have questions and they're asking, hey, can you address this? So if you have any questions like that, or you have any feedback as to, hey, can you address this thing? I'm happy to do that in a video. Makes it a little bit easier to distribute everything and to talk through it. All right. I think that's it for me. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time.